The rain fell in slow, heavy drops, washing the dark alleys of Arivia's old colony district. Puddles reflected broken neon signs that flickered weakly, some barely recognizable beneath the grime. Among the shadows, a man walked alone, his shoulders hunched beneath a worn leather jacket, a satchel slung over his arm. Ethan Cole had walked these streets for years, ever since the evacuation war ended and his life became nothing but survival. He was a widowed father, raising his young son Ben alone. Every day was a struggle to find food, keep warm, and avoid trouble. He had learned to trust no one, not even other humans. The soft scrape of a boot on wet metal made him pause. Ahead, near a collapsed food stand, a small figure crouched. At first he thought it was another stray, another refugee trying to find shelter. But as he got closer, he realized the figure was a child, a girl. Her skin glowed faintly blue in the dim light, and her eyes, huge and watery, shone with fear and despair. In her small hands, she clutched something wrapped tightly in a dirty cloth. Ethan stopped a few feet away, the rain soaking through his jacket. The girl looked up at him with a trembling mouth. "Please," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Please, bury my sister." The word struck him like a hammer. He blinked, unsure if he had heard correctly. "Your sister?" he asked, his voice low. The girl nodded, shivering. She is gone. Please, help." Her alien accent was broken, but he understood every word. Ethan hesitated. The city had rules, harsh rules. Humans were told to report alien refugees, and helping them could bring the authorities to his door. But looking at her small frame, the soaked clothes plastered to her thin body, and the bundle she held, he couldn't move. Something in him, a memory, a long-buried ache, stirred. He thought of his wife, the way she laughed, the way she held Ben close on stormy nights. The memory brought a sharp pang of grief. He had lost one family. He could not let another child be alone. "Come with me," he said finally. The girl's face lit up in relief. She stumbled forward, letting him take the bundle from her hands. Inside, Ethan could feel the shape of a small body, fragile and lifeless. He covered it with his jacket to protect it from the rain, and carried it carefully through the alleyways. The locals watched, whispering and shaking their heads. Some muttered words he did not understand. Others muttered warnings. He ignored them all. His focus was on the girl who now walked close behind, clutching his arm. At home, Ben was awake, rubbing his eyes in the dim light. "Dad, who is it?" he asked. "This is Lyra," Ethan said gently. "She needs our help." Ben blinked at the glowing skin and alien features, but he didn't hesitate. "Hi," he said simply, holding out his small blanket. Lyra hesitated, then clutched it to herself as if it were a lifeline. Ethan smiled faintly. He had never seen his son react to an alien so calmly. Perhaps innocence made the difference. The three of them stood in silence for a moment. Ethan unwrapped the cloth to see the girl's sister fully. She was small, no older than Lyra, and still, Ethan felt a heavy weight press on his chest. He had held his wife as she died years ago, had felt the same helplessness, the same terrible sorrow, but he would not let fear dictate him now. "Not for this child, we'll bury her," he said softly. "Where she belongs." The only suitable place was the small, overgrown garden behind their home. It was where his wife rested, where he had planted flowers that had mostly died in the poor soil. He grabbed a shovel and began digging, his muscles protesting under the weight of rain-soaked earth. Lyra knelt nearby, her eyes fixed on the ground, her small hands trembling. Ben stood silently, trying to help, handing Ethan soil clumps. As he dug, memories returned with sharp clarity. The war had taken everything, his wife, his friends, his sense of safety. And yet here he was again, holding a child who had lost everything. He had a choice: bury the girl's sister and retreat into his old solitude, or take a stand and give this child a chance. He did not hesitate. Finally, a shallow grave lay open. Ethan laid the small body gently into the earth. Lyra stepped forward, placing a small stone on her sister's chest, murmuring words in her alien language. The air felt heavier, almost sacred. Even the rain seemed to pause. Ethan watched her, understanding only the sorrow but feeling the weight of respect. When the burial was done, they stood in silence. The rain began again, lighter this time, washing over them like a gentle blessing. Lyra knelt by the grave, her voice rising in a soft, haunting song. Ethan felt chills, an unfamiliar feeling, as if the world itself recognized this act of care. The night deepened, and lights flickered above the ruined city. Patrol drones scanned the streets, a reminder that danger never slept. Lyra shivered, hiding close to Ethan's side. They look for something, she whispered. Ethan frowned. Something? What do you mean? She shook her head. Not her. The thing she carried. Important, powerful, dangerous. He glanced down at the bundle he had carried so carefully. He hadn't looked too closely before, fearing it would be too much to bear. But now he unfolded the cloth slightly. Inside lay a small, glowing crystal, pulsing gently with a warm light. Ben stepped forward, his eyes wide. It's alive? He whispered, reaching out to touch it. The crystal's warmth spread through his fingers, a sensation that was neither cold nor hot but reassuring. Ethan stared at it. His mind raced. This was no ordinary object. Its glow seemed to respond to the presence of the alien girl. Somehow he knew it was connected to the fate of her people. A sharp knock at the door interrupted their thoughts. Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He moved quickly, hiding Lyra behind the table and covering the crystal. The knock came again, harder. Open up, a voice demanded. Human, we know you're hiding one of them. Ethan forced his voice steady. No one is here. Just a sick boy, he said, keeping his hands visible. The soldiers pushed past him, eyes scanning the small apartment. They saw nothing. After tense moments, they left, muttering threats about following orders. But one officer lingered near the door as he left. They're looking for something stolen from the alien ruins, he whispered. Then he was gone. Ethan exhaled, leaning against the door. The crystal hummed faintly, and Lyra's small voice spoke again. It is what she protected. They must not find it. He looked at Ben, then at Lyra. I've already lost one family, he muttered. Not again. They settled in for the night. Lyra curled up beside Ben under the thin blankets, the crystal glowing softly between them. Ethan watched from the window, the rain washing the city streets clean. Somewhere in the darkness, enemies moved, searching for what he now guarded. Somewhere in the shadows, the world's fate might rest on a small human man, his son, and a frightened alien girl. And for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. The next morning, the rain had stopped, leaving the streets slick and shining under the weak sunlight. Ethan rose before dawn, carrying the small glowing crystal to the kitchen table. Ben watched with curious eyes, his hands clasped tightly. Lyra sat quietly on the floor, her glowing skin faint against the dim light of the room. She didn't speak, but Ethan knew she was watching him, gauging whether he could be trusted. The crystal pulsed gently, warming Ethan's fingers. It was alive in a way he had never imagined. He could feel a hum of energy inside it like a heartbeat. He looked at Lyra, who whispered softly, "My sister." She was the guardian. She died protecting this. It can save my world, or destroy it if it falls into the wrong hands. Ethan's brow furrowed. Your world? He asked. You mean another planet? Lyra nodded. Her voice trembled. Erevia, and it is dying. This crystal is a core fragment. It can restore life, but only if returned to the ruins of the ancients. Soldiers, humans, others, they will kill anyone who carries it. My sister knew. That is why she died. Ethan clenched his jaw. He had survived war and loss, but this, protecting a dying planet's last hope, was something else entirely. Then we'll take it there, he said, determination settling in his chest. We finish what your sister started. Ben frowned, but his voice was firm. I'm coming too. No, Ethan said at once. You're just a kid. I won't, Ben interrupted, stepping forward. You don't get it. I've already survived storms with you. I've seen you face worse. I'm not leaving her alone. She's scared. She needs us. Ethan stared at his son, seeing the courage he had once thought only humans had in battle. He sighed. All right, he said finally. We do it together. But we must be careful. They packed what they could carry, water, rations, and tools. Lyra wrapped the crystal securely in cloth and hid it beneath her jacket. Ethan took the old transport rover, a battered but reliable vehicle that had once carried supplies during the war. As they moved through the wet streets, the city seemed eerily quiet. Drones hovered above, scanning for refugees, and Ethan knew it would only be a matter of time before someone noticed the alien girl. Hours into their journey, the sun began to dip below the ruined skyline. The trio moved cautiously through abandoned streets and collapsed buildings. Lyra stayed close to Ethan, whispering words in her language to the crystal. Occasionally, the crystal pulsed brighter in response, casting strange shadows on the walls. Ethan realized it was alive in a way that was almost sentient, like it recognized the girl's presence. Suddenly, a sharp sound of metal scraping against metal echoed through the empty streets. Patrol drones had spotted them. Ethan's heart raced. He threw the rover into an alley, tires screeching against the wet concrete. The drones hovered, scanning the shadows, their red sensors cutting through the gloom. "Hold on," Ethan said, gripping the wheel tightly. "I know a way out." He drove through narrow corridors between collapsed buildings, dodging falling debris and broken pipes. Ben held onto Lyra, who had hidden the crystal under her coat. Sparks flew from the rover as it collided with a fallen metal beam, but Ethan didn't stop. He navigated the vehicle like he had done countless times during the evacuation war, weaving between obstacles with precision born from desperation. Finally, they reached the outskirts of the city. The open wasteland stretched before them, a place no drone could easily scan. Ethan stopped the vehicle for a moment to catch his breath. Lyra looked at him, her glowing eyes wide. "They are close," she whispered. "They want the core," Ethan nodded. "Then we must move faster." The next days were a grueling journey. They traveled through ruined highways, collapsed tunnels, and deserts scarred by war. At night, they huddled under blankets, the crystal's glow providing warmth and comfort. Lyra told stories of Erevia, of forests that shone with living light, rivers that sang, and cities built from living stone. Ethan and Ben listened, mesmerized, imagining a world far beyond their own bleak streets. One night, as they rested near an old observatory, the ground trembled. A squad of soldiers had found their trail. Ethan grabbed the crystal and ran, dragging Lyra and Ben behind him. Bullets ricocheted off metal scraps and drones hovered above, scanning for movement. Ethan shielded the children, firing back with an old energy rifle he had salvaged. Sparks flew, metal groaned, and the air smelled of burning circuits. "We're almost there," Lyra cried, pointing toward a glowing horizon. Through the haze, Ethan saw the ruins of the ancients, a plateau of strange structures half buried in sand and rubble. Energy radiated from the ruins, pulling him forward. He understood instinctively. The core had to be returned there or all would be lost. As they neared the ruins, Lyra faltered, collapsing to the ground. The crystal pulsed violently, reacting to her exhaustion. I can't," she whispered. Ethan knelt beside her. "Yes, you can. But you're not alone. We do this together." Ethan placed his hand beside hers on the crystal. The warmth spread through him, like lightning traveling through his veins. Pain shot through his arm, but he didn't pull away. Ben placed his small hand on the other side, and together, the three of them formed a living link. The crystal responded, glowing brighter than anything Ethan had ever seen. Suddenly, the air around them vibrated. Energy surged, lifting sand and debris into spiraling columns. Drones and patrol ships approached, but the wave of energy disabled them before they could fire. Ethan could feel the planet itself breathing, pulsing with renewed life. Trees sprouted where there had been dust, streams appeared where there had been sand, and the ruins shone like they had once held a living city. Lyra's voice rose in a song of her people. It was not sorrowful this time, but triumphant. The crystal's glow intensified, then slowly dimmed, its purpose fulfilled. She looked up at Ethan, tears streaming down her glowing face. "My sister," she would have been proud. "Humans, you saved us." Ethan, exhausted and trembling, looked at Ben and then at the girl. "Humans, sometimes we do care," he said softly. "We just need a reason." The trio returned to the city, weary but victorious. Soldiers stood aside as news spread of a human who had helped save a dying alien world. People whispered of Ethan Cole, the widowed mechanic who defied rules, protected an alien child, and revived a planet. Lyra stayed with them and Ben grew close to her, forming a bond that transcended species. At night, Lyra would hum the song by the gravesite of her sister, and the wind carried it through the city, not in sorrow but in hope. The crystal, now dormant, sat on the table, a reminder that even in the darkest places, compassion and courage could ignite miracles. Ethan watched them, thinking of his wife, and smiled faintly. He had lost one family, but he had gained another, strangest of all, one that spanned stars, species, and hope. He knew that whatever challenges came next, he, Ben, and Lyra would face them together. For the first time in years, he felt peace. And somewhere in the distance, Irivia bloomed anew.